As we record this in early August, almost 6 months to the day before the primary election, there may be some other candidates seeking the Republican seat, and so we'll cover those as they come along. How would you describe your own philosophy and as you approach government issues?
I believe in one of the reasons why I'm a Republican is because I believe in limited government. I believe in individual freedom, and I think that government's role is to create an environment where people can be successful on their own right, through their own ambitions, through their own hard work, not to get in the way of private industry and personal goals and desires. So I'm more of a free market, kind of laissez-faire, hands-off view on government. I think government has a role to incentivize and to encourage employers and small business people to create jobs and to improve the economy. But when it comes to really dictating to people how they should live, what they can and can't do, and certain mandates, I'm more for the free market.
As you expand beyond your what is a much smaller district, being a legislator, to a congressional district, you're going to be going into towns and communities where maybe the issues might be somewhat new to you. You're also going to be talking about federal issues instead of just the state issues.
Sure.
What are some of the key issues as you see it relative to the federal election? You're going to have international affairs
Sure.
and others. What do you think are going to be the issues that you would be hammering on?
Well, I think what voters are going to be looking for is somebody who shares their values. It's particularly Republican primary voters are very principle and value driven. And I think when people look at my positions on the issues and my conservative voting record down here in the General Assembly, they're going to see that my positions and my voting record parallels what the majority of the voters are looking for in the 18th District. I think also the voters recognize that the issues today will be different than the issues a year from now or 2 or 3 years from now. Certainly the issues that I talked about when I ran for the school board were different than when I ran for the state legislature, and certainly the circumstances in our state have changed over the past several years. So I think ultimately, while we will talk about immigration, while we talk about the war in Iraq, we'll talk about the issues that are very hot button right now, I think at the end of the day, the voters will be asking themselves, not today, but in 5 years or 10 years, who do I want in Congress that is going to represent and reflect my values and will do the best job for me as their constituent. As
youthful as you are, not as youthful as you were some years ago, is that still an issue, or do people now accept the fact that someone at your age can be doing a job as a legislator or as a U.S. Congressman?
Well, again, I think diversity is important in government. I think that comes in all shapes and sizes. You need young and you need old, you need men, you need females, you need black and white, you need doctors and farmers, and certainly age is one portion of diversity. I don't think every one of the 435 congressmen ought to be in their 20s, but certainly I think most would agree that the U.S. House of Representatives could use some shaking up, could use a different perspective, could use some younger blood in the U.S. House. And so I think that will be attractive to the voters who are frustrated with what's happening right now in Washington, D.C. I also think that while I'm younger than many others in our community, that I bring to the table a number of years of experience at levels of government that others in the race may not. Again, 4 years on the local school board, 4 years in the Illinois legislature. Somebody in their 40s or 50s that may be running for this position will not have those diverse backgrounds in those areas, and I think that's very beneficial for somebody when they're working on federal legislation to keep in mind how this is going to affect our local governments, our state governments, because those who have served in those positions know that oftentimes they're unfunded federal mandates that get handed down to us that we're then required to deal with. So I think when people look at my experience, they look at my work ethic, and they think about what kind of needs to change in Washington, D.C., that ultimately they will decide that someone with my background and somebody of my age is best qualified to go and represent them.
You already alluded to the fact you were able to raise quite a lot of money when you ran for the State House. Have you walk us through when this kind of opened up You weren't planning on running for Congress. How do you go about making that determination? I suppose, can you raise enough money would be one of the questions. Just walk us through some of the things that you weighed as far as coming to a positive conclusion that you should run for the seat.
Well, I'm a big believer that where there's a will, there's a way. And I really based my decision on whether or not I felt this was something personally right for me at my point in my life. I'm blessed that I don't have a lot of family commitments right now, so that I can pour my heart into both running as a candidate and then ultimately, if I'm elected, to serve. And I think that's very important. It was an important decision for me, at least. Part of my decision was just my own personal circumstances. And then certainly whether or not it was the kind of job I wanted to do. Did I want to get on a plane every week and fly to Washington, D.C. And go through some of the steps necessary to actually serve and do the job? And when I came to the conclusion that it was a sacrifice I was willing to make, and it was a position that I was excited about and looking forward to, then I executed and decided to make the decision. Now, certainly, now the work is to be done. There's a lot of work to be done, both in organizing in a 20-county congressional race, but also in raising the approximately $3 to $5 million that will be necessary to win the congressional seat.
As the campaign moves along, we'll look forward to talking to you more in depth about the issues, but we appreciate you joining us on the
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you.